Well, good evening and welcome to Yada Yahweh Radio. My pleasure to be here with you. And we've got Kirk as well. Kirk, you've been following the news on what's going on in Gaza?
A tiny bit.
Yeah, the Gazans have been very considerate to Israel. Evidently, there must have been a shortage of targets for the Israeli Defense Forces to practice on, and they're providing their sons and daughters to be targets. It's really an interesting strategy they have. They want to protest the right of return. Now, of course, the right of return would suggest that the land was theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And that they were kicked out of it. And what's quite interesting, of course, the land wasn't theirs. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. There's no such thing as a place called Palestine. So that whole thing is a lie, and if your argument's based on a lie, you don't have an argument. But what's particularly interesting is that there's only two countries in the world where the group of Arab Muslims who call themselves Palestinians have been offered citizenship. Only two. One is Jordan, and the other is Israel. The other is Israel.
Of course.
And Israel. In fact, when Israel was granted statehood by the United Nations, they told, as vociferously as they could possibly share, that they wanted the Arab Muslims to live there with them, and they said, we will grant you full citizenship in our country. Celebrate this with us. We want to include you in it. And yet it was the Arab Muslims who told those Arab Muslims, no. Don't you even think of staying there. We want you to leave so that the Islamic armies can wipe Jews out to the last and push the last Jew into the sea. And so, return? Who in the hell are you kidding? I mean, you have to be completely ignorant of history to push that agenda. And of course, speaking of ignorance, the leaders of Hamas, which is a religious group, are there yelling and screaming and being applauded for telling these stupid Muslims, and you stupid and Muslim, I know that's being verbose there, but you really have to be stupid to be a Muslim, and it's the dumbest religion. I mean, it is dumber than Scientology. It is dumber than Mormonism. I mean, it's dumber than Roman Catholicism. You really have to be stupid to be a Muslim. So they're telling them that the return of their fellow Muslims will be paved with their blood. That their blood is paving the way of return. Last time I checked, if you're dead, you ain't going anywhere.
No.
And who in the world would tell young men and women, mothers, fathers, I want you to run to that fence and try to tear it down and kill everyone that you come across once you get through it, and to go in there in such numbers that they can't stop you. I want you to do that knowing that the people on the other side know that you are terrorists and that you're murderers and that you will kill them given the chance. Why would you tell people to go do that knowing that the other side has guns? And if you try to tear down that wall that is keeping them safe, by the way, that was put up there to keep you away from them because they know not to trust you, that if you go and try to tear that wall down, cut it down, or scale it, they're going to shoot you dead. And then you complain to the world that, oh, by the way, 100 and some odd of us were shot dead by those terrible Jews. What terrorists they are. We have reached the zombie apocalypse.
No question. No question about it.
Stunning the way the world is responding to the whole thing. Of course, the country that is the most belligerent, because By the way, it's really been interesting because the mythical people known as the Palestinians, they are despised by Muslims around the world. No one speaks favorably about them. That's why they have not been offered citizenship in any other country. They can't. They're not citizens when they go to Egypt.
Easily.
Yeah, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Syria. None of those places. They have no interest in them. And and Islam doesn't deal with actual legitimate displaced peoples like the Kurds. It is. It's telling that there's no country in the Islamic world that is speaking up on behalf of these mythical people masquerading as well, they're actual people. But they're masquerading under the myth of Palestinians.
Yeah.
But Turkey, Erdogan, wanted to go out of the way and to say that their blood, that America is responsible for the shedding of their blood, and that America should be despised for its role in provoking them. Now, last time I checked, Erdogan is in power largely because America supplies all of his weapons. And have included him in NATO, and yet
kicked him out.
He in one of his speeches, he actually called America the enemy of Islam. God, if it was only true.
Yeah.
And yet he's a member of NATO, and he just called America his enemy, and we supply his weapons. Are we nuts or what?
Well, we are nuts.
Well, speaking of nuts, there's a gentleman, Falwell, I think is his name. He's running for U.S. Congress. He's a truther. A truther is somebody that is allergic to the truth, that is especially susceptible to lies. He's one of the people that has gone out publicly and said that Building 7 of the World Trade Center was a controlled demolition, and it was a controlled demolition by the CIA to bring it down. And he's running for Congress.
I had a whole show on that one time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the explanation of what happened to Building 7 is so obvious, so well documented, so clearly proven. It's like everything else that these conspiracy numbskulls believe. You have to ignore all evidence to the contrary and then take things out of context and completely misapply them and misconstrue them to support your theory. And that's across the board on every conspiracy theory, from chemtrails, which is just utterly laughable, to the World Trade Center, to any number of them. I mean, they're all that Jews are the root of all evil in the world. So actually now you have one running for Congress. And I know, truth be known, Trump would play right into them. So,
yeah, pretty
amazing in this regard. Let's return to Bereshith in the beginning, 22:12. That's where we ended the program last week. I just want to return to it because we've gone into this. This entire chapter is based upon what Yahweh stated in the opening chapter of the opening verse of what we now call the 22 chapter of Bereshith in the beginning Genesis, where he says, I'm providing a test to evaluate the understanding and response of Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
And so since Abraham, the entire story of Abraham is being presented to us, everything that he has done, everything he has said, everything that Yahweh said, everything Yahweh did, every question, every answer in that story is presented for a singular purpose, to explain how we go about engaging in the covenant, to explain the entire process of what God is offering and what he expects in return. That's the entire story. So when God says, oh, by the way, there's a test, you ought to pay attention, because that test is going to be applied to us as well. Now, fortunately, the answers to this test, straightforward and easy.
Yeah.
And in the case of Abraham, he respected and revered Yahweh. When Yahweh said, I want you to go and to Mount Moriah and ascend to that mountain that I'm going to show you, and that you're bringing everything, by the way, for Passover, and you know it's Passover because you know that I'm going to provide the lamb, because when your son asked you about it, you answered, yeah, Yahweh's going to provide the lamb. You understand what I'm asking, and you're going to act upon it. So what the statement in 22:12 is really key. Indeed, because truly and surely. And key also means this is important in this context. I'm emphasizing this point as part of this discussion. Now and henceforth, ata, at this point of time, based upon the sequence of events, I know, Yada, I recognize and respect, I acknowledge and understand. I have been made aware through observation of the facts and have had it made known that surely and emphatically, key again, actually and truthfully, genuinely, for rational reasons, you profoundly respect and genuinely revere Yahweh. You have come to appreciate the awesome nature and of your God, your Elohim. Consequently, you have not withheld your very special and precious Son. So it's really interesting, of course, here. He really had nothing to withhold at all, because he wouldn't have had Yishak if Yahweh hadn't intervened and performed a miracle. Yishak was born of a miracle. You know, it wasn't a case of a virgin birth, because there was really no virgin birth with Yosha. But Yosha's birth was miraculous nonetheless, because Yosha was born with Yahweh's soul. But in the case of Yishak, laughter, Sarah was barren. I mean, she and Abraham had been together for, like 80 years. She was barren. After 80 years of trying, it ain't going to happen without a miracle. So Yishak was a miracle. Right, that's why he just laughed at him. I said, yeah, man, you may have designed us, but I got no clue on this one. Yeah. Yishak's a miracle. So it's, he's really not withholding anything from Yahweh, because he wouldn't even have Yishak if it wasn't for Yahweh. Yeah. So he's not, and of course he knew, he told Yishak, when Yishak said, where's the lamb? Yahweh's going to provide the lamb. He always knew that Yahweh was going to provide the lamb. He had celebrated these events with Yahweh. Yahweh had shared his Torah with him. He knew all about what was going to happen. But what he did is he made his son Yishak part of this whole experience. He did what God wants us most to do, which is to share what we have come to know about him with our children. He included Yishak. Rather than keeping Yishak to himself, he chose to include Yishak in Yahweh's family, in Yahweh's covenant. And he told Yishak everything he needed to know to become part of Yahweh's family. And so by not withholding his son and raising his son such that his son would be part of Yahweh's family, Abraham and Yishak will have a loving relationship for all time. And that's really what God's asking for us. Don't be covetous of your children and say, I'm going to protect them. They're just going to be my son. No, don't withhold them from Yahweh. Expose them to Yahweh. And that way they'll be part of our family forever. A mom who listens to this program and reads his books not very long ago lost her son, but didn't lose him at all. And it's for exactly the same reason. Her son, Jason, came to accept the terms and the conditions of the covenant 2 years before he passed away. And he celebrated for the second year in a row Pesach Matzah B'Kurim before he transitioned from this life to the next. And so here was a mother who did not withhold her son, even knowing that the word she would share could cause her son to withdraw from her. She says, I'm going to take that risk. I am going to share what I know about Yahweh with my son. I am not going to withhold him from Yahweh and just keep him as mine. I'm going to tell him what he needs to know, regardless of its influence on me, because it's the right thing for me to do as a mother. And as a result, even though she's grieving at the temporal loss of her son, she's celebrating, knowing that he and she will be together for all time. One of the most amazing, I saw somebody said her writing, because Jackie must be in the forum, and says, writing, so are you the Jackie that Craig talks about all the time? And Jackie has, so many members of her family, and extended members of her family are now part of the covenant, because she has chosen not to withhold what she has come to know from them. And Jackie's got is on a lot of email chains, and she has taken that next step along the way, the same step that you, Kirk, have taken from just beneficiary of information to supplier of insights, from someone who is learning from these insights and these translations, to somebody who has taken the next step and is adding to the wealth of knowledge and understanding in a very substantial and material way.
Mm-hmm.
In her most recent analysis of the olive tree, and I got two simultaneously, one from Lisa and one from Jackie, and they're both brilliant. Now, Jackie's this is every aspect of the olive tree. Let me describe what each thing represents, and how the Torah was the root of the olive tree, that source of nourishment for the olive that is so grounded, rooted, if you will, in the land, and that Yahweh Himself is the trunk of that tree, the upright pillar, the one and only, and that the two branches of the tree are Yosha and Dod, and then from those branches, you not only have Yisrael, but as you get out into the thinner branches, things like the choter and the leaves of that tree become the neck, and the fruit of the tree are the heirs to the covenant. And you read this kind of stuff, you say, "Ooh, that's really profound." And then you have someone like Lisa who does the same sort of thing. She says, "You need to go translate Psalm 128." And you want to understand the correlation between the choter, that stem, and the olive. Go translate 120. And she said, "I'm not going to even tell you. You're going to have to go do it yourself." This afternoon, I've been catching up on my emails and doing it. But I think that is what Yahweh is saying here, because Yahweh knows that Abraham had a full appreciation and knowledge that his son was not going to be sacrificed. You know what? Yahweh told him. That's why he said, when his son said, "Where's the lamb for Passover?" Abraham said, Don't worry, son. Yahweh's going to provide the lamb. And Yahweh did provide the lamb. And so it had nothing to do with him passing a test. And that's what so many people think. Well, he was willing to kill his own son. That's how much he feared God. You should fear God to the point you're willing to sacrifice your son. No, that's not the point. Doesn't Yahweh say in the 10 statements, "Thou shalt not make a practice of killing"?
You'd hardly do something like the heathens and kill your children dedicated to your deity.
Right. That's the whole purpose, is to have the lamb be something that is nourishing and for you, and also symbolic for you, and then recognizing that I am myself am going to provide the lamb for you, that he knew that. So he wasn't of the mindset of well, I'm going to show Yahweh that I'm willing to kill my own son to prove that I fear him. It's not it at all. Can't be. It's impossible based upon these words and these circumstances. So now you have to say, so what does withhold mean? And that's why I'm sharing this, is I look at because I was willing to risk my relationship with my sons to tell them a truth that typically separates people, even fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, husbands and wives. This is a truth that separates people. Yosha said it 3 different times during those 3 years. Yahweh says it all the time. In fact, the truth separated Yahweh from Yisrael, and Yisrael from Yahweh. People don't like the truth. And so the very fact that I was willing to take the risk and not cling on to my sons, but expose them to the truth, not withholding the truth from them, so that I'm offering them to Yahweh. Them to be in a position, and me to be in a position, particularly with my youngest, that we will be together forever. Our relationship now is stunningly spectacular because we share this understanding, and of course it's enduring forever. So I think that's what he's talking about here. You have not withheld.
Yeah.
You haven't restrained for yourself. Pardon?
Tell me just for a moment. What is it about the truth that turns so many people off? This is so logical. There's nothing in this. I understand the superficial stuff. This is my tradition. But when they're really hit hard with enough facts, what happens to their brain?
Yeah, so that's one of the profound questions. In fact, I was answering an email trail today on specifically that question. It's just so baffling. And what's so baffling particularly is not only is a religious person completely and totally immune, insulated from, in fact, adverse to evidence and reason. They actually oppose and despise the very word of the God they claim they are worshiping.
Their God.
Yeah. When you cite the word of their God to them, they despise it. And you go, okay, how can you be that stupid? I mean, really, just how can you be that stupid? Religion dumbs people down to the point that they not only don't think, they're incapable of thinking. The very word of the God that they claim is their God, they despise.
Are they really that way, or is it something in their nasama that just is totally dysfunctional?
No, I don't think so at all. God does not make dysfunctional. If there's something really important to God, He's going to make it functional. For example, when I was just thinking about this, God being a designer, and of course my favorite design of all of God's designs, women. I just think women are the most beautiful. I just think women are the most beautiful. Now, okay, just my personal prejudice. Everybody's got their own thing, but my personal prejudice, women are the most wonderful thing God created. He most certainly did a really fine job on that design, and that he did it for that express reason to be pleasing to Adam, because he loved Adam, and he created something wonderful and loving and endearing and fun and exciting, and helpful also for Adam to understand the nature of the covenant through Towrah. I don't think God created a dysfunctional Nasama. So I don't think their Nasama is dysfunctional. I just think that they've stopped using it. I noticed that if I stop exercising, my muscles atrophy. If I exercise all the time, then exercise is easy. I once was a decent golfer. When I practice golf, I be a scratch. I'm a pretty good golfer. When I don't practice I'm not so good at it. I can't break 100 when I don't practice. Most of you know that I own and fly an airplane. If I fly at least once or twice a week, I'm pretty good at it. You know, I've got the highest ratings. I do the training. If you sit up in the cockpit of an airplane with me in the right seat, and I'm sitting in the left seat, and I'm explaining everything that I am doing, that I'm going to do, that I'm thinking about, and how all of this works, you'd say, yeah, that guy's a pretty darn good pilot. And but if I don't fly regularly, you know, I make mistakes. So I think it's the issue with the Nesama is that the person of faith doesn't use it. You know, when I find, Kirk, that if I am in the mode of translating Yahweh's word, I'm pretty good at it. If I take time away from it, it takes me a while to get back up to speed. And I found that the more I did it, the better I am at it. If I look at a translation I did 15 years ago versus what I can do today after having practiced it for 15 years, night and day difference. And I'm 100 times better at it than I was 15 years ago. That doesn't mean I'm really good at it now, because I'm not. And it doesn't mean that, you know, that I was really terrible at it before, because, you know, I wasn't nearly as good, but, you know, the translations were still far better than most.
Yeah.
But the difference is I used it. And so I think the problem is that they're not thinking, and they've been conditioned not to think. I mean, the Quran even says that in the final surah, the 5th, says that those who questioned their religion,
they warn them not to. Yeah,
lose it. And if you become apostate, in Islam, good Muslims are supposed to kill you. So,
well, of course,
the only good Muslim is an unthinking Muslim, because the Quran says don't think, don't question, don't make inquiries about the Quran. So the only good Muslim, all good Muslims are unthinking Muslims, and all thinking Muslims cease to be Muslims. So the same thing is true with religion. You're not told to think, you're told to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And you're told that the consequence of not believing is to be tortured forever and being ostracized.
Well, then is it fair to say that when you approach someone, if they haven't at least begun to walk away, then you're pretty much hopeless case?
Correct. Yeah, as I meet new people,
they're stuck in it. They can't get out of it. But if they've at least walked away a little bit, they will.
Yeah,
but it takes
more than a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, if you're not actively questioning what's going on, no amount of truth is going to help.
No. I just had such a terrible.
When you heard it, for example, you knew that Sunday worship and church were wrong, and that you were already questioning Paul. You were questioning Easter and Christmas. You were questioning cross. You were questioning the how in the world that could Christianity be so different than the words that were in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, if God was the same. So you were well into the questioning mode, and that's where you really have to be. If you're not there, it's worse than just wasting your breath to engage in conversation, because you're going to make an enemy. And, Abraham, Yishak would have had friends, and Abraham would have known that for Yishak to choose Yahweh, to choose the truth, he's going to be isolating himself from his friends.
Yeah. And
there was a high probability that Abraham would isolate Yishak from himself. But it's by taking the individual that Abraham loved the most and saying, I'm going to take the risk in our relationship to tell him the truth, even if he rejects me for it, which is the normal human response. I'm going to share it with him. So I'm not going to withhold my son from Yahweh.
Well, that's what's so remarkable about Jackie's story. It's the same thing. God, what a risk. You wipe out your entire family would just turn on you.
Correct. Right.
And she was just so fortunate they received it well.
Yes.
Amazing story.
And that's not the norm. The norm is to, in fact, I've got another gentleman that listens to this show and writes to me regularly and said, I finally had to separate from my family because they're just so hostile to Yahweh, and there's nothing I can say that will resolve this problem. And so I'm just, very uncomfortable because anything that I want to talk about, they despise. So I think that is the case here. So indeed, now and henceforth, I know, I recognize, and I respect that surely and emphatically you profoundly respect and genuinely revere your God, because you have not withheld, you have not restrained your very special and precious Son from me. He offered Yishak to Yahweh. That's what we're called to do as parents, and he passed the test. I don't think there is a more important test for us. If you were to think about, what would be a part of this test, what would be a more valuable way of demonstrating to Yahweh that you love him, that you respect him, that you want to be with him, that you've come to understand and accept the terms and conditions of his covenant, and that you have answered his invitations to meet. What could a person do that would offer greater proof than knowing that well enough, caring about it sufficiently, that you would share it, knowing that it could create the ultimate divide, but that you're capable and willing to share it. You can't share it with your children unless you understand it. You can't share it with your children unless it is what you yourself have accepted and acted upon. Because Abraham was showing Yishak by example. So I think that's the ultimate test. I've often said that there is a challenge in the human mind going from short-term to long-term memory. The first time we go through with something, unless we really engage with it. We talk about it, we listen to the words, we write the words down, we contemplate the imagery of those words. The definition of those words is fleeting. It will not make that transition from short-term to long-term memory. But if we do the things I've just said and we take it one step further, we go to the point of understanding the word and then teaching someone else about the word, then we own it forever.
Well, that's the greatness of teaching. You actually have to put in your own words these things and tell to someone else. And if you don't know it, it's exposed very quickly. But if you know it, it's quite wow. I really do get it because I can explain it so simply or whatever.
Yep. So here, Abraham did not withhold his love of Yahweh from Yishak. So that's that is an essential part of this story that is, I think, often misconstrued and missed. Now that brings us to a continuation of this story, but the timing is interesting because Abraham could not capitalize upon the offering of Pesach until he demonstrated that he understood and was willing to share this story. And so it's after that God said, okay, therefore, Abraham lifted up his eyes and he looked. And acknowledging the situation regarding the one who was actually being observed, a ram after this was caught in the intertwined thicket. And Abraham walked over and accepted the ram and offered him up, lifting offering, as a means to ascend in the place of his Son.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at these words. So
okay.
What we're dealing with here, of course, is Passover and the Passover lamb. So Abraham, the father who enriches, the father who lifts up, lifted up Nasa, raised up his eyes. Now, that would mean that this lamb that he saw was above him, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any way to look up and see the ram? If you were on a mountain, he was on Mount Moriah here. Is there any way whatsoever that you can look up and see something if it's not above you?
No.
No. So, might we assume that this ram was on the summit of Mount Moriah?
Yeah, that's a good.
That is a good
you
sign.
can surmise that, yes.
Yeah, you could. And you know what happened on the summit of Mount Moriah?
Yes, I do.
That's where the very house of Yahweh will be built. That is where Yosha was placed upon fulfilling Pesach,
yeah.
and Yosha fulfilled Pesach right up against that summit.
Yeah.
You know, that the encarpment of the Golgotha, the skull. You can see it today, and it's right up against the summit. It's at a place higher than the Temple Mount. In fact, from the summit, you can actually look down on the Temple Mount. So that's where he was. And it's really hard to envision that Abraham said, "Oh, my God, I worship you. God, I praise your name. Let me get down on my knees and close my eyes and bow to the ground." Is it possible to look up under those circumstances?
Oh, no.
No.
Absurd concept, yeah.
Right. So Abraham lifted up. He raised his eyes and his perspective accordingly, and then he looked. Then he observed, seeing and inspecting, perceiving and understanding, Ra'ah. Ra'ah also speaks of a shepherd, doesn't it? Shepherd and observation, the two definitions of the word. And acknowledging the situation regarding the one who was actually being observed. This is henna. Henna is a powerful word.
Right?
Yeah, it's henna is very much like the basis of Haya, which is the basis of Yahweh's name. Haya is Hey Yod Hey. Henna is Hey Nun Hey. So the only difference is, rather than the hand of God showing God's existence, defining his name, and Haya, henna is mom and dad, Abraham and Sarah, reaching up, standing up, looking up to God, and therefore conceiving a child of the covenant. The Nun is a sperm. So, and acknowledging the situation regarding the one this was actually about. Observed henna, a ram. A.L. Remember we were talking earlier, and I said, the word here for ram, for lamb, is one that is really uncommon, and that typically when you're talking about a Passover lamb, it's A.L. Well, Yahweh obviously used a different word for lamb previously because he was trying to convey a different information, and this time it's the typical word for lamb, A.L., because the Passover lamb, A.L., means a lot of things. One, it's the perfect male lamb. A.L. is the leader of the flock. A.L. is the framework of the doorway because Pesach is the doorway to life. It's the doorposts and the jamb upon which the door is held and swings open and closed. It's the upright pillar to support the home. A.L. is the source of empowerment, of vigor and health. A.L. is the noble and mighty one. A.L. is the perfect word for the male lamb that he saw there, because this male lamb represents the Pesach lamb and the doorway to life.
Yeah. You can't get anything but Yosha out of all that. It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Everything you said, I have, and then more. But you know what you said leading up to that, you said the typical ram, and all of a sudden I remembered a little bit later we'll be getting to Yashaya's comments about the ordinary child who's not exceptional in the sense of beauty or anything, and he is a very typical lamb, which would also reinforce why Yahweh chose Al.
Yes. Yeah. In this particular case, this male lamb is extraordinary.
Well, I understand.
This is the doorway to life.
Yes.
This is the leader of the flock. This is the very framework of that door, the doorpost and the upright pillar upon which it swings, the means to empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
El is a very powerful word.
It encompasses everything in there. It's a mighty man, a prominent, lofty tree, the upright pole.
By the way, that tree is the tree of lives. You know, that's the lofty tree that this lamb represents.
There's related is also ulam, which is a porch or a vestibule or a hallway attached to a building, which is attached to the building, which is the family. I mean, everywhere you go.
Everywhere you go.
Another one of those amazing little words that you just go, wow, that's a connection, that's a connection, that's a connection.
Right. And this is that he observed, beheld this ram, this extraordinary presence, after this, a car, following these things, subsequently, in reference to another time. Well, there is just so much about that word in this particular context. And every word that God uses, he uses for a reason. So the first of those is that Pesach, and that sacrificial lamb, only does you value, is only valuable to you. That doorway to life is only useful if you've accepted the terms and conditions of the covenant and you're acting upon it. It's in the sequence of events. You don't do Pesach and then accept the terms and conditions of the covenant. He was ratified and tested in the covenant, was found wholly acceptable within the terms and conditions of the covenant, and then, after that, the Passover lamb. There is a sequence to these things. You know, that's why somebody says, well, tell me about the Moed Mikre, what they represent, if they even know that term. The Feast of Israel, Pesach is the doorway to heaven. It's the doorway to life. And matzah is the means to purge a person of the fungus and the corruption of religion and politics. So we become perfect. And thereby, immortal and perfect, we can become adopted into Yahweh's family. Well, you can't be adopted into Yahweh's family unless you're part of the covenant. There's only one family. And so Pesach and Matzah and Bekurim have to follow the story of and participation in the covenant. Last time I checked, the book of Korah, invitations, where these invitations are presented, and the book of Shemot, names in which we see the prequel of them living out in the life of Yisrael during the Exodus as they're taken away from the corruption of religion and politics and brought into the promised land to be with Yahweh, that both of those books and both of those stories follow this one about the covenant, don't they? Mm-hmm. That's the order of things. Yahweh is telling us the order of things. The covenant is first and foremost. Come to understand and accept its terms and conditions. And then capitalize on the benefits of the doorway to life and the Passover lamb. Timing is important. These things have to be understood and acted upon in context and sequentially. They're not parallel events. One and then the other. And then, of course, it sets up an order of events because this is year 2000 Yah. We're 68? Yeah, BCE. 33 CE, exactly 40 Yobel, 2,000 years later. Yosha is going to do in the flow of events, he is going to fulfill this dress rehearsal for real.
Mm-hmm. Somebody asked me a question about why I didn't come up to 2000. I mean, I had to remind them that the CE and the Common Era and the before the Common Era share the same year one because they don't have a zero. So
that's right.
Then it comes out right.
You gear from 1 BCE to 1 AD without passing through the year zero, mm-hmm. because they didn't have the concept of zero. Mm-hmm. But from 1 BCE to 1 CE is not 1 year, it's 2 years. Mm-hmm. But because they didn't have the concept of zero, the Roman pagan calendar is missing a year. And so that's why it's 968 to 33 mm-hmm. CE is, that gets you your exactly 2,000.
But on the Yah calendar, it's all right.
Oh, Yah's calendar works just fine. It's trying to coordinate things with man's calendar that is the difficulty in the whole process. So, that is the timing of things. So it's important that we understand the sequencing here after this. Now, was caught at Kaz, was seized and held, was fastened to and attached, actually embracing for the purpose of providing an inheritance. Yahweh allowed Yosha to be seized and caught by men. Yosha chose that for himself. He allowed that to happen. Just as, man must catch and seize control of the Passover lamb for you to slay it and therefore be able to prepare it for the meal. So it was caught. When Yahweh says, when sin is associated with him, and we're going to go into Yeshaya 53 in short order here, that when Yahweh said, that the sin of us all was placed upon him, that's what he's talking about here. He caught it all. Mm-hmm. He caught all of it. It was all associated with him. That's the purpose of and the symbolism of the Pesach lamb, that all of the corruption associated with our religious and political malfeasance is associated with him, is caught up with him, and laid upon him.
There's also a meaning in there where it says grasped, caught, and fastened, which I thought interesting because he's fastened to the bright pole.
And while all of this was fastened to him, was caught. Mm-hmm. And it says, in the intertwined, in the Shabbat, the intertwined thicket. Well, you know what the ultimate intertwined thicket is? Religion and politics. Things are intertwined and twisted together, interwoven. Truth and lies, interwoven. To fence people in, to imprison them, to tie. If you look at Christianity, it's this whole interwoven mesh of lies that's given a veneer of credibility because it's piled right on top of the truth. And yet it's just nothing but a twisted mesh of lies. And so the Christian would tell you, well, that intertwined thicket is symbolic of the crown of thorns. Well, we do read in the eyewitness accounts that he was given a crown of thorns, and I have no issue with the tie-in there. Mm-hmm. But in reality, the intertwined thicket...
That's the shallow version.
Yeah, that's the shallow version. He was entangled in the twisted nature of religion and politics.
Yeah, Well, we're supposed to walk away from Babylon and Mizraim, and I mean,
right.
There's the story. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Now he was caught by his horns. Now, the horns here is karin. Karin means, the primary definition of karin is not horn.
No.
It's brilliant rays of light from a supernatural source, glowing, shining, emitting and radiating light. And of course, karin is also the trumpet, the ram's horn used to signal an exceptionally important message. Every word here just should speak to us. This is recognition that as the diminished manifestation of Yahweh, Yosha is light. When Yosha transfigured himself for
Shimon Kepesh, right?
Shimon Kepesh and Yahuchanan and Jacob Tusei.
Right.
Yeah, he was transformed into light. That's the tie-in here.
Well, I found a fourth one too, which was in one of them for Karen, which was a peak of a mountain, and I'm assuming it was the reference to Mount Torah with the light that shone from that when Moshe.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And Yosha was there, by the way. In that meeting of 40 days and 40 nights.
It'd be a diminished manifestation.
Great feasting, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, when Moshe came down, his face was glowing.
Right, yeah, he had to cover it up, didn't he, with a cloth?
Yeah, it was glowing. Right. The whole top of the mountain was light and glowing.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Light,
This is what Abraham saw in this day. Is this transfigured image of light, but with all of man's twisted and entanglements associated with him. And Abraham walked over and accepted the ram. Well, you can't be down on your knees, lifting God up in praise and bow down and walk.
No.
You want to make your way to God, you need to walk to Him. God has provided a path.
Right.
First step on that path is the doorway we call Pesach. You got to walk to Him. Walk to me and become perfect. That's the condition of the covenant. That is precisely what Abraham was doing. You got to walk. And then not only do you have to walk over to God, you have to accept what God is offering. The Moed Mikra are invitations. Accept those invitations. The covenant terms and conditions are being offered to us, but they have no value unless we accept them. Abraham accepted lakah. He grasped hold of. He received. He obtained the ram. And the ram, again, is not only the perfect male lamb, not only the leader of the flock, but also the framework of the doorway, the doorpost and the jamb, the very upright pillar to support the home, the source of empowerment and life. And he offered him up to ascend. Ata, hu, la, ola. To go up as a means to provide an acceptable solution for an uplifting experience. I know that so many times I translated olah as uplifting sacrifice or offering. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, that's a whole lot better than burnt offering.
Yeah.
But still, if you really just... it's still, so, I made a lot of progress from burnt offering, because there's no burnt in the word. In fact, there's really no offering in the word either. But burnt offering or uplifting sacrifice was a whole lot better than burnt offering.
Mm-hmm.
Although burnt offering does have a little twist to it, it's too bad that Christians don't understand, which is that the Passover lamb.
Passover,
after
Passover when you burn it all up.
Right. It must not be burnt initially, because if you burn food, it's not edible.
That's right.
So it can't be burnt initially, but that which is no longer of any value is burnt, because all that corruption, the part that's not nurturing, must be destroyed. And so
why doesn't that destroy Christianity? I mean, why?
I know.
Why can you not put that together?
I know.
Turn.
I mean, back in someplace they know he's the Passover lamb, and yet the Lamb of God, the Passover lamb, and yet they can't connect to the fact that that the Torah says that the Passover lamb is burnt, it's consumed by the fire. Therefore, there can't be a bodily resurrection. But be that as it may. So while I would justify and say my translation of Olah was better than any you'll find in an English dictionary, in reality, what I really should have done is not extrapolated at all. I should not have given an ode to the religious influence that is on those lexicons.
Mm-hmm.
And what I should have done is just stuck to my guns and said, well, Olah is written identically to Allah. And by the way, it's the Allah as an ain, not with the LF. It's not the Islamic God. It's an entirely different word, and it means to uplift. It means to rise. It means to ascend. So he was accepted the ram to ascend, to rise up. That's the purpose of Passover, is that you transcend mortality, rising up to immortality. Immortality is a dimension up from where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to transcend here, light is much greater than matter, because light is energy. E equals mc squared. You have to multiply by matter by the speed of light times the speed of light to get the equivalent amount. Right. So this is what this whole process of Pesach is about, ascending. You don't just ascend to heaven and to the seventh dimension, which is a far cry from 3.5, but you're ascending from matter to energy. You're ascending up to God. And so that's the basis, the verbal root of olam is olam. And so that is what is being conveyed here. Is olah versus Allah. It's to ascend, to go up, an acceptable solution, that which is uplifting. That's the whole purpose. You know, what is the when Yahweh looks at the word henna, it's two people reaching up, standing up, and God is offering His hand to lift them up, and in between the two, in henna, you've got the child, and in Yahweh's name, you have the two individuals reaching up and being lifted up by His hand. It's
the increase.
Yahweh wants us to stand up, and He is willing to lift us up, which fathers do.
What a guy!
Yeah, what a guy!
I mean, understatement, but still, wow.
Yeah. In place of, instead of, in the orderly arrangement of time, with one event reasonably and rationally following the other, as an exchange in behalf of the relationship for the sake of His Son. So, Yahweh provided the ram for Yishak, for the benefit of Yishak, for the benefit of every child born into the covenant. That ram was offered as a way for us to rise up to Yah on our behalf, as an exchange on behalf of the relationship for the sake of His Son, which, by the way, is a lot better than instead of His Son, because this really wasn't an instead thing.
No.
Yahweh was offering the ram for the sake of children born into the covenant. Another just extremely powerful message that is being provided by by God.
Well, he was first fruits too, so it wasn't instead of. I mean, it was
that's right.
In addition to.
Right, for the benefit of.
For the benefit of, yes.
So Abraham designated and proclaimed. He called out kara, all right? Kara is an important verb here. Kara is the basis of mikra. The first of the 7 mikra is Passover. That is what is being displayed before our eyes. So Abraham designated and proclaimed, calling out the name of his place, God reveals. Isn't that so powerful? I mean, because what is the purpose of this story? Abraham just told us the purpose of this story. Thank you very much, Abraham. You know, and so many times I'm one of the first people to say, you know, Abraham wasn't the sharpest guy around.
Well, he got this.
But he got this, didn't he? What is the purpose of this story? God reveals. God just revealed the entire purpose of this, the terms and conditions of the covenant and the Moed Mikre that enable its benefits. Yeah. God reveals. He's revealed the means to come to know him. He's revealed and shown for our benefit through this story what we need to know to be part of Yahweh's eternal family. Yahweh reveals. I couldn't come up with a better name. Yahweh was seen. Yahweh was experienced. He is present. He is encountered, providing perspective and understanding of those who pay attention and consider him. He called the name of this place, the Mikra. He kara. He summoned. He invited. He greeted. He welcomed. The name of this place as God reveals. It's too bad that so few people see the word of Yahweh as revealing. You know, what does Yahweh tell us to do all the time? Shama.
Observe. Shama.
Yeah.
Listen.
Shama, listen, and Shema, observe. Well, if you're being observant, you're going to realize that in this story, Yahweh is revealing his nature, his plan, how to benefit from it, and the purpose of Pesach, to provide life.
Well, the way Craig, the way you translate is so straightforward. If you were reading just the bold stuff, you would get it immediately, which is so poorly done by the English translators for the most part. And then the joy I get in just looking up the words is all of that is there, and even more if you wanted to. I know you don't want to keep on writing and making it to 4,000 pages, but you know it's just,
Kirk, one of the things that I really like about this whole process is that I'm not going to toot my horn here when I say this, because it's really
what
I tried to do was follow Yahweh's example. Yahweh reveals. That's what Abraham just said. Yahweh reveals. So if I followed Yahweh's example, and what I conveyed was not only revealing, but it's what Yahweh is revealing, that it would have value. And so the best way to do that was to reveal as much as I possibly could. That's the whole purpose of amplification, is to reveal what God is saying. And so one of the joys that I had about this is I said, I'm not going to pretend to be smarter than than other people, and to be smarter than God, and to limit what these words might convey when a word might convey many important things. Let's just reveal it all. Let's expose it all, and then let's observe and consider it all. And then let's reveal it in such a way that if you're Kirk here, you can say, initially I want to check out what's being revealed here, and it's been presented to me in a way that I could look up and to see, is that indeed the verb? And I can look in it. You could look in an interlinear and find out. Yeah, Ra'ah it's Elohim Ra'ah. So yeah, you could look that up and say that's the word. Yep, he got the right word, and then you can look up that word because it's being presented for you and say, yeah, that word means to see, to reveal, to be present, to be encountered, to be seen. To be observed, and so you can do that. So all of that was revealed so that you could see the big picture. And it's also done such that you now can more comfortably trust and rely upon this rendering of the words because you've been given the means to verify it for yourself. But that's just the start of it. That's just the beginning. Where you are now is where it should take you, which is I think it's been a while, Kirk. I don't put words in your mouth, but I think it's been a while since you looked up words to try to validate my translations. I think now when you look up a word, it's to go beyond them, to learn even more, to explore and journey beyond what I have shared so that your insights exceed those that I've provided.
It's almost like sitting there and Yahweh's entertaining. It's so entertaining. You just keep looking, and it's not even about, even though I take copious notes, it's not about coming on the show and saying, well, I found this. Sometimes it's hard not to say that if you find a real gem. But for the most part, it's just wow. There's just little wow factors, and it's just the most enjoyable thing.
It is.
Yahweh is
very revealing.
Yeah, he's right. He said the right thing. That's exactly what it means. But look, it's just, look at all these things.
You know what's interesting,
I even look at all the letters, too, still.
Yeah. He didn't say Yahweh dictates, did he? Did he say Yahweh dictates?
No.
Did he say Yahweh commands? Did he say Yahweh orders?
No, it doesn't do that.
No, what he said is Yahweh reveals.
Reveals.
And if we observe his testimony, Yahweh's words, and these stories that he is sharing with us, and we approach them from the perspective of this is the Creator God of the universe revealing what's important about him, us, and the means that he has provided for he and we to become us, then we're looking at all of this correctly. We recognize that the Torah, prophets, and Psalms was God revealing himself to us. So here's the most important story ever told. There is no more important story than the story of Abraham becoming part of the covenant. It's the single most important story ever shared with humankind. And the beneficiary of that story says, I'm going to name this place Yahweh Reveals. What else happened on that place? After the covenant now has just been ratified and affirmed with Abraham, and that Yishak has been announced, has not been withheld from Yahweh, therefore he's been given to Yahweh. And now the place is called Yahweh Reveals. 40 Yobel later, Yosha reveals whole promise and purpose of Pesach once again, and the promise and purpose of Matzah, and the promise and purpose of Bikurim. And Yosha on this place revealed that he is the diminished manifestation of Yahweh. He revealed on this place that he is, in fact, the embodiment of the Torah. Yahweh revealed indeed. In fact, it is on this place that Yahweh speaks of Zion, the signpost along the way. This is the place where his other son, Dod, would build his home. This is the place that he's going to return. This is the place he's going to establish his household. This is where he's going to camp out with humankind, those who survive his return for 1,000 years. Yahweh reveals himself here. You mentioned that you were tracking down right hand, Yamin, and you realized that something really profound. I want you to just go share what you thought about as you considered yamin?
Sure. Well, the verb amin, is not as translators suggest to believe, but is to trust and rely. So I confirm support via facts, basically. Something that's verifiable that you can actually test. And I went through that, and then I looked up the letters, of course, and all that, and it reinforced it again. And then on my particular program, it says it gives you other words associated with look up this. I looked up aman, which means to turn. The same word, to turn or to be bold or be alert, but to turn in particular. And then that leads you to aman, to go to or to choose the right, or to use the right hand. So we're talking about the right hand. And then that yamin, different M-A-N to M-I-N, is the right hand, which is the instrument that delivers, by the way, is used in Exodus. I just gave you the whole scoop. Is the instrument that delivers Israel is the same term used in Exodus 15:6, which I thought was pretty cool. But it also says it means the south, the right hand, when facing east. And, of course, they oriented themselves to the east, unlike us who orient ourselves to the north.
Yes,
and then
Yahowah. East.
Right. Where the sun
What's in the right hand?
And where Yosha, by the way, as you mentioned, is returning from the east. He'll hit Israel to the Mount of Olives coming from the east. And as I was walking up, I keep my little charts and things from other shows and things that we've discussed and researched. And I was always interested in, you have on the way Yahweh laid out the 12 tribes plus the low in the center. He laid them out facing the east, and Yehuda, of course, is facing the east, and that would be most appropriate. But on the right hand of it was not Ephraim or Manasseh or something. It was Reuben. And I never really thought about that, why Reuben is on the right side, until I looked up there, and I was looking down here, and I made a note. It says Reuben means to see the sun, S-O-N, not S-U-N, S-O-N. Right. And this is all a story about looking.
Because Reuben is a compound of Ra'ah and Ben. Yeah. Reuben is a combination of Ra'ah and Ben. So it's see the sun.
See the sun. And
so that is what Yahweh is trying to get everyone to see. So here is Abraham has now seen the sun as the Pesach Lamb of God. And he's calling this Yahweh reveals. And if you look at what's at the right hand, you see Reuben, which means see the sun. And if you are in this place and you're looking east, guess what you're going to see? Yahweh return.
Yeah.
You're going to see the very Son of God.
That's cool.
And Yahweh himself.
That's where digging up stuff to find a little gem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's just rewarding. So.
And powerful all the way along. So Abraham designated and proclaimed, calling out the name of this place, the standing place, the home, the office, the very source, the direction for life, Makum. Makum is Ma and Kum. Where should we stand? Why is this place a place we should stand? Where is this place to stand? Right. For direction of life, God reveals. Yeah. And then the next word is my favorite word, showing the way to the benefits of the relationship. Asher, providing a upright, fortuitous, and elevated state, a joyful and happy attitude, an encouraged and content mindset to those walking along the correct path and the proper and specific way to a prosperous life, stepping out with regard to this teaching and guidance to pursue life the proper way. That was what was being revealed here. He spoke this day upon the mountain. Observe and understand Yahweh. That's why he called it Yahweh reveals, showing the way to the benefits of the relationship, the path to walk, to give life meaning. He spoke, he made promises and declarations this day upon the mountain to observe and understand, to ra'ah, to see and look upon, to view, to witness, to experience Yahweh. important that we understand what these words mean and understand the consequence of these words. You want to see Yahweh? Yeah, not only look through the words of the Torah, but view the Torah from the perspective of what happened on Mount Moriah, what happened on this day that was so revealing, what happened 40 Yobel later, and what happened will happen 40 Yobel after that date, which is 2033 on our pagan calendars, when Yahweh returns. And returning, by the way, to accomplish this very thing, to reconcile his relationship with his children. Showing the way to the benefits. He spoke this day. What was this day? Pesach. Yeah. Upon this mountain where Pesach would be fulfilled. To observe and understand Yahweh. This is what you need to know, to see and understand, to look upon, to view, to witness, to experience Yahweh. What we're sharing here is so important. This is the way Yahweh has chosen to reveal himself. And, when, kind of returning to what you had said before, this idea of providing all of these insights, because that, if I look at all of these books, and now we're concluding the first volume of Observations for our time, the purpose of these books was to reveal what Yahweh had to say to us and to explain what it all means and how it's relevant to our lives. And what came out of it is something that I have long thought was, I don't want to put this in, because I'm afraid of the comparison here, but I still don't want to diminish the concept.
Go ahead.
I think the insights that are provided in these books are as valuable as the words themselves that are conveyed in terms of the translation, the amplified translation of Yahweh's words. It's the insights that Yahweh's words provide that is the essence of these books. And insights is God revealing. This is all about God revealing insights into his nature, his plan, his purpose through his words. And so, more than anything else, these books, these programs, are filled with the insights that can be gleaned by observing Yahweh's testimony, observing and considering what Yahweh has revealed. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of insights that haven't been considered or shared, presented and contemplated for thousands of years. Yahweh reveals these insights through his testimony, through these stories. And it's through these insights that we come to know and see the creator of the universe.
Now, do you think a lot of that has to do because of where we are in the time frame of the end of the 6,000 years? I mean, I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
he's pouring it all out where you just can't miss it, and he's doing it also, obviously, in English. If you speak Hebrew, you would have no problem looking up these words and stuff and knowing the words anyway. But in an English-speaking world, well, half of the, if not most of the Jewish population, the Yehudim population, speaks English or is in America or some in Europe.
Oh, I think
all those factors flash through my mind.
We're analyzing Hebrew and conveying those Hebrew thoughts in the lingua franca of the world. English. English is overwhelmingly the language. Right, it's the language of the world. It's the language of understanding of the world today. And so what we're doing is we're not leaving the Hebrew. Every word here is Hebrew. We're just explaining the Hebrew using English. And it's I'm going to laugh here because there's some things here that I do want to share.
Okay.
I'm a Goyim. Grafted into Israel. So I'm part of that same tree. But I'm a Goy. English is a Goyim language. the tree that my English translations are grafted into is the sap of that tree is Hebrew.
Oh yeah.
But here is a goy conveying to Yisrael Hebrew concepts in English.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you that English is to Hebrew as goy is to Yisrael.
That's a different element.
It is also extremely insightful to know that the most brilliant people in the world, people who represent a tiny fraction of 1% of the world's population and are responsible for almost half of the world's great insights, Yehudim.
Yes.
That while they revealed these words, they don't understand them.
Well, they haven't embraced them.
No. So here's the smartest people in the world, and they don't understand these words that were written for them in their language. And here's this twig over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a goy in
and
English.
Look at him.
And he's explaining it to him.
Yeah.
He is helping the blind see.
Irony in that, yes.
It's just the irony of it. It's so delicious. Here's a guy. He doesn't have any qualification that would mean anything to anybody. And this dumb, flawed goy, by observing what Yahweh had to say, has been shown insights, hundreds of them, thousands of them, that haven't been considered for millennia. And he's revealing Yahweh to Yahweh's chosen people. It's amazing what an implement can do, no matter how dented and flawed, if used in the right place, the right way, for the right reason.
Yeah. If you pick up the Torah, he'll be with you.
Right. The irony of that whole thing, you got the smartest people in the world missing the whole thing. So this flawed and dented implement says, hey, folks, this is what God is offering you. Open your eyes, open your minds, open your hearts. This is the best thing that has ever been offered. I always want to tell people, that when I tell them that religion is rubbish,
mm-hmm.
and that the God of religion is disgusting, that I want you to tell you, but I want you to be reassured, because the actual God is a really cool dude. He's friendly, he's approachable, he's funny, he's enlightening, he's uplifting. He's a hoot to be around. The real God, as he presents himself, as he truly is marvelous. He's awesome. Don't be concerned that you're losing your God, because the God of religion
ain't worth having.
And the real God, he is terrific. He doesn't want to be worshipped. He doesn't want you to fear him. He doesn't want you to bow down to him. He doesn't want you to obey him.
Yeah.
He wants to hold your hand. Go for a walk together. Teach you, uplift you, nurture you, empower you. The real God is marvelous. And he is ready for us to pay attention to what he has revealed. All you got to do is have the want to. Right?
Yeah.
You got to have the want to and the will to. The will to open your mind, to go where the words lead, and the want to invest the time. The will to and the want to. It's transformed your life, Kirk.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this isn't a burden preparing for this program and looking up these words. It's great fun.
No, I wish I had more time to do it. Yeah, we all have obligations to one thing or another, but yeah.
Right.
No,
yeah.
I don't think
I'm constantly laughing at myself, recognizing how unqualified I am, just how funny it is that Yahweh would use someone as flawed as me to write this sign that he could uplift, to wave in front of his chosen people, come to know him for the first time and embrace him and accept him. It's just so perfect God. Okay.
Well, you're in good company.
I'm going to use it's like him choosing Moshe, who was a stutterer, to reveal his name.
Right. I was just about to go there with Abraham was maybe a little bit of a dunderhead, and Moshe couldn't speak worth a darn, and Dode was anything but.
You know what's beautiful about Abraham, though, is all the way through this process, Abraham just didn't get it, right? So what Yahweh was saying, you don't have to be super smart to be part of my covenant. If you'll just hang with me and listen to me, you'll get there. But then by the time that Abraham got there, now he's making statements like, I'm going to call this place, based on the word Mikre, Yahweh reveals. Stunningly profound, man.
Well,
that goes and becomes one of the most important statements ever offered to humankind. So this guy went from being maybe not the sharpest guy in the world to stunningly brilliant. Why? Because of what Yahweh was teaching him. He knew exactly. He had the answer for everything along the way now. Because that's what Yahweh had done for him.
Yeah.
And that's what he does for all of us. Just have to listen, to observe, to care about what God's revealing, to invest the time, because Yahweh's not going to order you to do anything. He's not going to spoon feed it to you. You've got to open your eyes and really want to know.
No, he's not going to drag you into Shamayim either.
No. What a marvelous story. And the thing that just baffles all of us is with God being so spectacular to be around, and with the thing that he's offering so wonderful, and what he's asking of us in return so beneficial to us, and he's so credible.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everyone in the world just embrace it? And thank God they don't.
Well, that's
really.
Well,
thank God they don't.
If they did, and they would be turned.
So because if they all did, then we would, then Shamayim, the seventh dimension, would be filled with the same people who are making a mess of 3.5D. So, good riddance.
Yeah.
But all the members of the covenant family will be there, and we'll have so many brothers and sisters with whom to share this experience to make it richer and more revealing and more uplifting. And we're going to spend every day from here on after with Elohim Ra'ah, with God Almighty revealing. And he's going to reveal a whole new universe that he's going to create for us. All of the elements that go into that universe, all the calculations, the imagination necessary to conceive and to nurture life. Yahweh's going to reveal all that to us. He's going to reveal every nuance of his Torah, so much more. As I say, it sounds for a moment braggadocious to say, this flawed and dented implement, Yahweh has revealed all these insights through on behalf of his people to lift up this twig and what he has written as a sign for his people. And they realize, no, I'm laughing at me. But that Yahweh is just so humble and so comfortable with who he is and what he's offering that he doesn't have to have a prestigious person represent him. He can go right to the opposite. He can go right to the dented and dirty implement and say, it's not the individual. It's what I have to say.
I've thought about that a lot, especially if you think about it in Matthew. He'd walk by and he would say, Yoshua would walk by and say, "Follow me," and they just get up and follow him.
That's right.
They wanted to.
Right.
I mean,
as we're reading Yahweh's testimony here of protecting the covenant, don't you want to do the same thing? Don't you just want to do the exact same thing that Abraham did? I've walked out of Babylon. I'm just following him.
Yeah.
I'm following him through these words.
Well, I started reading your book, and Tara and I both, and we just it consumed us.
Yeah.
We just go.
The story we're
we
telling
just wanted to know so bad, and we knew a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden we by looking at it directly from the Torah translations, we could figure out that's what. Oh, okay. Well, that absolutely is proof that's right, and this is where we knew where we went wrong. We knew what we were doing, what we understood that was correct. So it was just amazing fun. And I think that's true of most everybody I've met in the covenant so far. They all want to know.
Everybody wants to know. Well, all the people that have joined the covenant have the want to know, the desire to know, and the will to go where the words lead.
Yeah, and they like Yahweh. Or at least
yeah, we do. We all like him.
Trust him right away, and then they become to really like him over time.
I know. And I know that every time that I probably go into this description of Yahweh's a cool dude. God really is nice. He's fun to be around. And I'm sure that must blow people's gaskets and say, well, how could you speak of the creator of the universe in such, just
intimate terms?
Comfortable, terms like that, when he's obviously the creator of the universe and you're just, a twig.
Because he'll talk to you.
Because
thousands of words to tell you.
That's not only our relationship, it's all of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
God's really a nice guy. He really is.
Yeah.
He's extraordinarily giving, uplifting, caring, fun, brilliant, entertaining. He's fun to be around.
Yeah.
And he expects so little from us. That's the thing that is so comfortable about the whole thing. First, you don't have to believe him. He presents enough for you to know him.
Yeah.
And he's not saying, trust in what you know. He said, no, trust in me. Rely on me. It just takes all the pressure off. It's just very comfortable. And then he has a means to cover us in his light, so all he sees is our best part. So even when we're not on our game, it doesn't matter.
I love that part.
Yeah. It's just Yahweh sees the best in us.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Doesn't even know the worst in us. Celebrates the best in us. And is genuinely excited and thrilled when, Kirk, you come up with, well, what is at the right hand? What is, if you're looking east as everyone looks, because that's the rising, that's the increasing light of the sun. So Yahweh wants that to be our perspective, is to increase in light and enlightenment. That if you're Yahudah and you're looking east, what's at your right hand? Reuben, seed of the sun. That's just marvelous. In fact, you can even say, see the sun, S-O-N, as the S-U-N, in the sense that he's going to come back as light. Right. He's going to come back as the most brilliant light we've ever seen. So there's a lot to observe, a lot to understand, a lot to be enlightened by, be enriched by. And all of it, through all of it, you see, come to know him.
Thinking the other day and looking at the little chart, where he arranged everybody, and I'm always trying to think, well, why is that one there? Why is that one there? Why is that one there? So I'm slow.
No, I am too. I'm really slow.
But
and
he does everything for a reason. If you walk into
right.
anything, what I have learned, if you walk into anything that you're looking up or studying, and you put it all down, like I was thinking the other day too, and something you wrote about Moshe and Dode. I forget exactly where it was in here, but I was reading through it and I was saying, well, that's interesting because 400 or 40 is the time of testing, and Moshe took them out of Mitzrayim after 400 years,
right?
Taking them away from that. And Dode was the last one at the end who took them out of 400 years from the Amalekites. But regardless of who they were fighting, the Amalekites controlled it because they controlled the whole region for 400 years.
Right.
you can do the simple math. Go 450 to around 900 years in there, and 40 years in the desert, and all of a sudden they controlled it for 400 years. So there's just little things like that to reinforce everything that he says all the time. And I thought, well,
that 40 Yobel plan is just so powerful.
Yeah.
I saw someplace a church was celebrating a jubilee, and they said, "You guys are clueless. It's Yobel." And it speaks of Yahweh's Lamb is God, and Yobel is the time when debts are forgiven, when slaves are freed, and we all return to the land. And it's on these Yobel years that Yahweh frees us, liberates us from the control of religion and politics, and He pays our debts, so that we can return and live in the land with Him. That's what the Yobel celebrates. And when you realize that 40 is always the length of a duration of time of testing, and you take 40 Yobel from the time that Adam and Chawah were expelled from the garden to the time that this very story that we've been studying was memorialized on Mount Moriah, was exactly 40 Yobel. And then it was exactly 40 Yobel in this exact same place on Mount Moriah, where Yosha fulfilled the promise of Pesach as the Pesach lamb. And it's exactly 40 Yobel from that date to the time that He will return. 1968 BCE, 33 CE, 2033 CE. So that 6,000 years culminates with a 7,000-year period, which is the celebration of Sukkah, of God camping out with us, which is His view of perfection for 1,000 years. That's the story of history. We leave the garden and we return to it.
Great plan.
Oh, it's a marvelous plan. And it's all revealed right here in the first book of the Torah in Bereshith.
Yeah, this is not God didn't invent a mystery religion. They did that in Babylon. This is right in your face.
He revealed His nature and His plan and everything we needed to know right here. Really, really marvelous. Indeed. All right, my friend. I have enjoyed this, and we'll be back together a week from today. Thank you. It was really fun to do this.
Pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, so much fun.
Very much.
Yeah.
Take care.
Enriching. Thank you.
Indeed. Good night.